In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to orchestrate a shout chorus in your big band charts. Hi, I'm Elliot Deutsch, and in this series, Big Band Secrets Revealed, I reveal the secrets of writing for big band. But see, oh my goodness. If you haven't watched the previous lessons, I really recommend that you at least watch the first one on closed voicing, lesson number 1, because I'm going to be building off of that and referring to it during this lesson. When I'm talking about a shout chorus, usually toward the end of a big band arrangement, especially in a traditional style, you have the ensemble playing tutti or mostly tutti, meaning together, and really loud. And it's characterized usually by the trumpets being really up high and everybody playing at fortissimo, and that's the sound of a shout chorus. You can use full band closed voicing like we did sometimes, and that it sort of depends on the range of the lead trumpet. So let's talk about instrument ranges. So one common misnomer when it comes to instrument ranges is that all the horns work the same way as trumpets, which is patently untrue. So let me back up for those of you that don't play in jazz bands or don't play a wind instrument. For trumpet, when you go up into the altissimo register, the really, really high notes, in order to make them come out of the horn at all, you have to put an incredible amount of air, and it has to be moving really, really fast, and as a result, the notes are always really, really loud, which is sort of why they're effective for shout choruses. The other instruments in the band don't work the same way. So for trombone, there's kind of a money range. Lead trombone sounds like a lead trombone when it's high enough that they can play with that trumpety kind of edge in their sound, for lack of a better way of putting it. That range begins right on top of the bass clef staff, maybe around a B flat or a C, and then goes up to the top of their written range, which might be a C above that. I very seldomly write any higher than that, and honestly, I very seldomly even write up to a C and usually max out around an A. I had a conversation once with Bob McChesney about the altissimo register on trombone, and the way he put it was that he can play an octave above that high C, or even higher than that, I'm not sure. When you go higher than that 4-ledger line C, the trombone has more of like a delicate, almost whistly sound to it. In the hands of the right player, it can be really beautiful, like a French horn or a flugelhorn or something in that. But in the wrong hands, it just doesn't sound that great. And honestly, that's sort of outside the realm of what trombone is supposed to be capable of. So if you're writing outside of that range, it's really on you and not on the player. And this is gonna all go back to when you're arranging a piece of music for big band or for any ensemble, the goal is to have music that sounds beautiful when you're done. And if you're writing music that's excessively difficult without tons of benefit, it's not going to sound great. The musicians aren't going to be happy with it, and you're not going to be happy with it. You're allowed to write things that are really, really tough when there is a really, really huge payoff and you're writing for a really, really virtuosic performer. Back to Bob McChesney, I wrote an F above that high C in a solo part for him, but it was for him to play, and I wouldn't expect anyone else to be able to play that. So that's the highest I've ever written for trombone, and unless I'm writing for a player like that, I probably won't do it again. All right. In the same vein, saxophone range. Let's talk saxophone range. And this is going to be very, very much a rule of thumb saxophone range thing. One of the reasons we have 5 saxophones in a big band is not completely arbitrary. It has to do with closed voicing. So if you write a melody in the first alto part, where when transposed into E flat, it is more or less inside the treble clef staff, it's going to be in the perfect, money range for the alto saxophone. And then if you orchestrate downward, filling out your regular closed voicing where the bari sax is an octave below, all of the parts are also going to be in their comfortable ranges. The alto saxophones are more or less in the trumpet range, the tenor sax and the bari sax are more or less in the trombone range, and so that you get this beautiful comfortable spread when you do closed voicing. Now, to orchestrate a shout chorus. if your lead trumpet is in the staff or just above the staff. So I'll think maybe up to a concert A, right on top of the treble clef staff. If you orchestrate vertically, right, or if you do a closed voicing downward, you'll end up with first trombone an octave below the first trumpet, right? Because you're going to take those 4 voices and put them in the 4 trombones. Now, if lead trumpet is on an A on top of the staff, then first trombone will be in an A on top of the bass clef staff, which is just fine. Again, remember, that's about the top of where I'd want to write it. So when you're doing closed voice 2D for a shout chorus, if the trumpets aren't excessively high, you can get away with it. Or so oftentimes that's the best, get away with it, that's the best voicing. It's concise and sounds great every time. That said, it's not tough to figure out when trumpets need to go into the altissimo range, so higher than concert A, a lead trumpet, standard professional lead trumpet goes up to a concert F. So considerably higher, a sixth higher than that A, an entire sixth. Trombones can't go, if trombones are going up to that F, that's the whistly high ridiculous F that you don't ever want to write for trombone. So we obviously have to do something different. Let's take a listen to a shout chorus that I wrote for my arrangement of Sleigh Ride. You'll see in the first half of the shout chorus, I'm using traditional closed voice 2D, exactly how we talked about. The 4 trumpet voices are exactly an octave above the 4 trombone voices, and those trombone voices are exactly alto 1 through tenor 2 with the bari sax on the root. I guess the one exception is we're coming straight out of a bari sax solo, so for the first few measures of the shout chorus, bari's laying out and I instead have bass trombone, but then for the next 4 bars, we go to completely traditional. All right, that sounds great, right? Now notice in the subsequent 4 bars, after the key change, the trumpets start going really, really high. And that's when I pivot to this other type of orchestration. If you ever played first trumpet in a big band, you know that when you go up into your altissimo range, it's really, 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 really helpful, I almost can't overstate it, to have another trumpet an octave down. This has something to do with the physics of making sound out of a trumpet. When you go for those really, really high altissimo notes, first of all, intonation is really tough. And one way to kind of add in, for lack of a better word, a false sense of being in tune is to have somebody an octave down in a range that's pretty easy to play, tuning to whatever the first trumpet is putting out. And it gives the illusion that the first trumpet's in tune. The second part is it also gives the impression of a bunch of overtones. It's really hard for a first trumpet player to play with a really big full sound when they're up in the altissimo register, several ledger lines above the treble clef. Having the note exactly an octave below in a trumpet gives the illusion that they're playing it that much stronger. So it's really important to voice your trumpets, at least first and fourth trumpet, in octaves. So what I learned to do from the Sammy Nestico, the Complete Arranger book, and I kind of live by this philosophy, is you take the trumpets and you put them in a triad, more or less. And you don't just choose a random triad. Choose notes that are in the chord that follow our other rules. So leave at least a minor third between first trumpet and second trumpet, and then put third trumpet more or less evenly spaced below the fourth trumpet. Then I like to put first trombone in an equivalently high, powerful part of their range, but I'm not worried about getting it exactly a third or a fourth below fourth trumpet. I'm just putting it in a place that's really strong and has room for them to move in parallel with the line. And then I voice the trombones down and closed voicing from there. If the trumpets are excessively high, sometimes I'll use saxophones, the alto saxes, to fill in the middle voices. But other times I'll put the saxophones exactly on the same trombone notes. You kind of have to, take each situation as they lie. But I don't go for excessively large spreads in the lower voices. I'm just kind of hitting all of the interesting notes kind of as close together as I can. Now let's hear what this sounds like. So that's how I orchestrate a shout chorus for a big band. I hope this helped. If you have any questions or follow-ups or other things you want me to talk about, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. We just passed 1,000 subscribers, which is a big deal. Not as big of a deal as 2,000. No, it helps an awful lot. And so if you got anything from this, that's a really free way to help me and the band out. Definitely check out the entire sleigh ride video and a bunch of other performances that I have on the Pandemonium Big Band channel. And otherwise, I will see you at the next lesson. Bye.